So, Kirsty, I need to stand up for me, love.
By the late fall of 2024, Englishman Lewis Price, aged 31, had become terrified of his on-again, off-again girlfriend, Kirsty Carless. On November the 11th, he called the police to report that she'd strangled him. In a witness statement, Price described that the sporadic relationship, which had begun in 2021, was on the whole abusive. He said that Carless had stopped him from doing the things he'd enjoyed, such as playing soccer, in addition to being physically violent towards him. Price recounted incidents that included her choking him, pulling him down the stairs, or throwing household items at him. Officers reported that the father of 6 was at very high risk of domestic abuse. Carless was arrested and then released on bail conditions that prevented her from contacting Price. In late November of 2024, Price confided in a friend that he was scared of Kirsty and feared that something bad would happen if he didn't walk away from the relationship. In light of the most recent attack, he moved back to his parents' home in Cannock, Staffordshire. On Christmas Eve, Carless had drinks at a pub with a male friend before they went back to his home and had intercourse multiple times. She was planning to spend the night, but at around 1:30 a.m. on Christmas Day, a friend sent her a screenshot of Price's Tinder profile. Overtaken by jealous rage, the woman took a taxi back to her home and armed herself with a kitchen knife. She then ordered another taxi to take her to the home of Price's parents. Carless, who was also under the influence of cocaine at the time, called Price 45 times before 2:15 a.m. and 2:44 a.m. The barrage was only broken up by calls to the taxi company to inquire about her driver's whereabouts. Upon arriving at the home of Price's parents, where she expected to find her ex with another woman, she told the taxi driver to wait for her and that she would be coming back in a minute. Carless ran inside a spare room at the house, which she found was empty, and then headed to a caravan in the back garden, whereupon she encountered her ex. Carlos stabbed Price on sight. With no attempt at confrontation or conversation, she plunged the blade at least 5 inches deep into his chest, and CCTV showed her chasing him around the property. Price was found unresponsive on the floor of the conservatory and succumbed to the stab wound. The attack had unfolded over the course of less than 2 minutes before Carless returned to the taxi. Anxious and sweating, Carless demanded that the driver take her to her parents' home. Upon arrival, she admitted what she'd done. Her stepfather called the police and she was arrested for murder. After she was taken into custody, the woman claimed that she'd taken the knife with her with the intention of destroying the caravan where her ex had been staying following their breakup. She claimed to have no recollection of the events that followed. At the time of the fatal attack, she was still on bail for the previous strangulation incident against Price. In spite of her attempts at claiming diminished responsibility, the jury convicted her of murder and of assault occasioning actual bodily harm. She was handed a life sentence with a minimum of 25 years behind bars, with the judge telling her, "Less than 2 minutes is all it took for you to take a life and ruin many others, including your own." Number 9. Naomi Hunte and Fiona Holm. On Valentine's Day 2022, neighbors called the London Metropolitan Police to the home of 41-year-old Naomi Hunte in Plumstead. The woman was found lying across a blood-soaked couch after she'd been fatally stabbed. Blood was splattered throughout the room. The killing blow, which impacted the upper half of her chest, had caused a wound that was 5 inches deep and had punctured her right lung. Hunte likely died within an hour of being knifed. Leading up to her death, she'd repeatedly complained to the police about the deranged behavior of her ex-boyfriend, Carl Cooper. Law enforcement had responded to domestic violence calls at her home in 2020 and 2021. The woman had at one point revealed that Cooper had stabbed her with a screwdriver, and she described him as some sort of psychopath. After the relationship ended, in a call from late June of 2021, Hunte told the police, "He stalks me and I'm really scared now." Cooper was arrested on suspicion of Hunte's murder on February the 18th, but he denied any wrongdoing. Body cam footage showed the man telling officers in a thick Jamaican accent, "Me can't run. Where run I go? Me never run. You can't run in England. Nothing you can do in England and get away with. You can't." Before the most recent arrest, Cooper had been charged with the attempted murder of another partner in 1999, but was acquitted. He was released while still under investigation for Hunte's killing and was thus free to start a new relationship with 48-year-old Fiona Holm, whom he met on New Year's Eve in 2022. She didn't know about his history of violence against women and that he was an active murder suspect. Undeterred by the fact that he was being investigated, Cooper was also violent towards Holm, a mother of 4 who had autism and ADHD. In April of 2023, she reported him to London police for threatening her with a crowbar and stabbing her with a screwdriver. She wasn't told at the time that Cooper was a murder suspect. In spite of abundant evidence that he was a major danger to women, Cooper wasn't held behind bars and instead handed a 28-day domestic harm prevention order. His relationship with Holm resumed. The woman was caught on CCTV at an off-license near Cooper's home in Catford at 10:48 p.m. on June the 20th of 2023. She and Cooper went back to his apartment and she was never seen again. After Holm disappeared, family members went looking for her at Cooper's address and found the windows painted over. As they scratched away at the paint, they found Cooper staring back at them from inside. Holm's daughter said it was like something out of a horror movie. The Metropolitan Police subsequently received an anonymous phone call saying that Cooper had murdered a woman at his home on June the 25th of 2023, but the tip was dismissed as a prank call. In the days that followed, Cooper cleared out his apartment, refurbished, and was seen lighting a series of fires. In hindsight, it would become clear to investigators that he was disposing of evidence pertaining to Holm's murder. The woman's body was never found. One theory was that Cooper had hidden it inside his couch, which was then taken to a dump and destroyed. Cooper was ultimately charged and convicted of killing both women. Investigators found Hunt's blood in 3 different areas of Cooper's coat. In spite of his efforts to get rid of evidence, Holm's bloodstains were detected on the walls, door, and Wi-Fi router in his living room, as well as on a TV set of which he disposed of, but which the police was able to track down. Cooper was handed 2 life sentences in early July of 2024 and would have to spend a minimum of 35 years behind bars. He was 66 years old at the time, which meant that he would most likely die in prison. The sentencing judge pointed out that he'd preyed on vulnerable women, that he then behaved in a controlling and coercive manner towards them, and that he was known to become violent when they weren't willing to have intimate relations. Updates from September of 2024 indicated that 4 Metropolitan Police officers were investigated for the repeated failures regarding the cases of both victims. Met Commander Paul Brogdon told the media, "We have always been clear that we made mistakes when dealing with allegations against Carl Cooper. For those mistakes, we are extremely sorry." Number 8. Andrea Roan. On the morning of December the 16th of 2011, Andrea Roan left her apartment near East 12th Avenue and Clayton Street in Denver, Colorado. The woman, a 5th grade teacher, got into her car and was prepared to head to work. As she was driving through the alley behind her apartment, 22-year-old Roan was shot in the head and crashed into a nearby garage. She was pronounced dead, and her ex-boyfriend, a man by the name of Ryan Miller, was arrested for her murder. He and Roan had dated for about 4 months, and he became enraged after she broke up with him. Following the split, Miller showed up to her residence, forced his way inside, and assaulted her. Rowan's screams alerted neighbors who came to her rescue. Miller was arrested for domestic violence on December the 9th, but he was subsequently released. In the days that followed, the man formulated a plan to kill Rowan. With the assistance of 28-year-old Richard Levitt, the latter supplied Miller with the murder weapon, drove him to and from Rowan's home, and also assisted him in hiding the murder weapon. During Miller's trial, Deputy District Attorney Kenneth Boyd told the jury, "He can't take no for an answer. It's just that simple." Miller was ultimately convicted of first-degree murder, second-degree kidnapping, first-degree burglary, first-degree trespassing, and third-degree assault. In 2013, he was sentenced to life without parole plus 23 years. For his part in the plot, Levitt pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, for which he was handed a 48-year sentence. Number 7. Alicia Little. By Christmas of 2017, the relationship between 41-year-old Alicia Little and Charles Evans had become broken beyond repair, according to the woman's account to her loved ones. In the weeks leading up to December the 27th, Evans had proposed to her, but she made up her mind to leave him after a 4-year relationship that was reportedly marked by episodes of family violence. On December the 27th, Little texted her mother to say that she was breaking up with Evans, noting, In the next 24 hours, there's going to be a lot of drama. The following day, Little called the police to remove Evans from the rural property they shared on the outskirts of Kyneton, Australia. The woman claimed that he was drunk and abusive. Evans was heard in the background saying words to the effect of, "Bring your brother, bring your uncles, I don't effing care, I am an Evans, bring the lot of them." The 44-year-old then took Little's phone and got behind the wheel of his Toyota Hilux. He drove around a water tank and a fence before he hit his partner with the vehicle. Evans abandoned her in the driveway and rushed to a friend's house, where he complained that she'd bitten his nose. First responders discovered Little, a mother of 4, foaming at the mouth after she'd suffered catastrophic injuries, including blunt force trauma and liver damage. She was pronounced dead shortly thereafter. Evans was arrested and initially faced a murder charge, but he ultimately accepted a deal in which he pleaded guilty to causing death by dangerous driving and to failing to render assistance after a motor vehicle accident. Little's family was outraged by the case's outcome, with her brother later telling a media outlet, "It's an absolute embarrassment. It's like we've been slapped in the face." Evans served 2 years and 8 months behind bars. He was paroled in 2020, whereupon he flew from Sydney to Melbourne. When he was approached by 7 News at his destination, Evans told them, "I've got nothing to say to you. Mental illness caused her death, not me." Number 6. Cristina Ortiz-Lozano. Cristina Ortiz-Lozano and Abdulaziz El Yachioui Awazat met in the late 2000s at school in Spain and began a relationship that eventually resulted in them moving to the UK in 2018. They initially lived in Liverpool and then relocated to Southampton the following year. The 12-year relationship broke down and 28-year-old Ortiz-Lozano ended things with Awazat in August of 2019. She'd previously tried to do so while they were staying in Liverpool, but he reportedly pretended to drink bleach in a bid to get her back. Following the August split, Awazat went on a rampage at their home. He broke furniture, threw wardrobe doors from the window into the garden, and ripped radiators and light fixtures out of the walls. Cristina Rodriguez-Lopez, a friend of the couple since their school days in Spain, was living with them at the time. She went downstairs and called the police. Awazat was arrested, and part of his bail conditions banned him from the home and from contacting Ortiz-Lozano. He nevertheless continued to send her insulting emails. Cruise worker Ortiz-Lozano told colleagues that she was afraid to walk to work on her own and that she was planning on returning to Spain to escape her ex. On September the 20th, the woman matched on Tinder with 30-year-old hotel receptionist Vicente Breso-Biosca. The following day, they met at an ice cream parlor and then headed to the Giddy Bridge pub. But they left early when Ortiz-Lozano spotted her ex entering the establishment. Breso-Biosca would recount that she wanted to leave immediately and that she seemed like somebody terrified of an animal. CCTV captured Awazat stalking them from the shadows as they headed back to the woman's Portswood area home. Ortiz-Lozano told her date about the failed relationship with Awazat, noting that he had drinking problems and that he was also controlling and violent. When they arrived at the address, Awazat was waiting on the street. In spite of Ortiz-Lozano protesting that she didn't want to see him, he followed her inside the home while Breso-Biosca waited outside. In the moments that followed, the latter heard a piercing scream. The man recounted, "My whole body knew that she was terrified." He told neighbors to call the police and rushed inside the residence. Breso-Biosca kicked the door down and saw Ortiz-Lozano on the floor with Awazat on top of her and his hand pressed to her neck. Awazat then grabbed a kitchen knife with his other hand and began frantically stabbing Ortiz-Lozano. Breso-Biosca recounted he was kneeling on top of her. He had her under full submission. He was trying to choke her or hold her down. She was already gone. Breso-Biosca feared that Awazat would come after him next, and as he fled the scene, grabbed the phone off a neighbor who was calling the police and told them to rush it because he's killed her, and we don't know what he would do next. Rodriguez-Lopez was sleeping in her bedroom at the residence and was awoken by screams. She shut her door and called the police as she believed Awazat was throwing furniture again. Ortiz-Lozano died after sustaining 23 knife strikes to the chest, neck, and abdomen, as well as defensive wounds to her arms. Awazat fled the scene but was subsequently arrested. He denied murder and admitted manslaughter by diminished responsibility. It took a jury less than 5 hours to convict him of murder in 2021. In March, he was jailed for life with a minimum custodial sentence of 19 years. Awazat's lawyer read out a letter from him in court which said, "I don't know how I was able to cause such damage and destruction. I am disgusted. I will never feel peace again living with what I did. I do not deserve anything good from this life. Number 5. Jeremy Sanchez. In April of 2018, concerns arose after Los Angeles teenager Jeremy Sanchez didn't show up to class. At South El Monte High School, Sanchez was described as a natural-born athlete and was on the school's football, wrestling, and baseball team. After he went missing, his father assembled a search party, which was joined by one of Sanchez's best friends. The boy in question eventually found Sanchez's lifeless body in a riverbed near South El Monte, roughly 13 miles from downtown LA. The authorities learned that Sanchez had been stabbed to death. During the investigation that followed, detectives discovered that the teen who'd found Sanchez's body was actually the one who'd killed him. He and the victim were involved in a romantic relationship of which Sanchez's family was aware. Sanchez had reportedly ended things because he wanted to date a girl. The boy became angry, lured him to a secluded area near the riverbed, and fatally knifed him. The suspect's name wasn't released because of his age. Lieutenant John Carina of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department told the media the person who killed him is the one who said, "Look, there he is." Carina added, "This person kills his friend and then acts like, oh, I'll go out and try to find him." It is almost like he was trying to throw everyone off. Detectives were tipped off about the boy's potential involvement, and he gave conflicting statements during subsequent interviews. Additionally, a search of his home produced substantial evidence that he was the perpetrator of Sanchez's murder. Updates on the case indicated that the murder weapon hadn't been found and that the suspect was booked at Los Padrinos Juvenile Detention Center on a murder charge. Number 4. Travis Ray Thompson. An unnamed Florida woman headed for work on the morning of May the 3rd of 2022 and left her daughter, Jacqueline Schwingle, in the care of 27-year-old Travis Ray Thompson. The woman had ended the relationship with Thompson about a week earlier and had moved out of his camper. She and Jacqueline nevertheless returned to the camper and stayed overnight so that she could help Thompson get his car fixed the next day. About 25 minutes after the woman had left for work, Thompson called her to say something was wrong with Jacqueline. The woman rushed back and they took Jacqueline to a hospital in Tavares, where she was pronounced dead. Thompson maintained that he'd left Jacqueline alone on a futon while he was in the bathroom. He then reportedly heard a loud noise before finding her unresponsive. The man was arrested for her murder but maintained that he had no idea what had happened to her. The medical examiner's office determined that the cause of death had been traumatic injuries inflicted with force. The medical report indicated that Jacqueline's body had been gradually bent or compressed in such a manner that her spine was severed, causing massive internal bleeding. There was no other way in which her injuries could have occurred than by the systematic application of pressure. It was determined that Thompson had killed Jacqueline as revenge for her mother leaving him. A jury deliberated for just 2 hours before finding him guilty in June of 2025. He was sentenced to spend the rest of his days behind bars. Bill Gladson, state attorney for the 5th Judicial Circuit, echoed the public's outrage over the murder, stating, "Life in prison is too good for this kind of evil." Number 3. Lauren Semanchik. On August 1st of 2025, frantic 911 calls were placed from an address in Franklin Township, New Jersey. They came from the neighbors of 33-year-old Lauren Semanchik. The operator heard audible gunshots and screaming in the background, but the authorities were unable to pinpoint the location of the calls. The following day, Semanchik's father went to the home and discovered her dead alongside her boyfriend, 29-year-old volunteer firefighter Tyler Webb. Semanchik's distraught father reported that she was shot in the back and that it appeared she was running away when she was killed. The primary suspect in the double murder was Semanchik's ex-boyfriend, New Jersey State Police Lieutenant Ricardo Santos. Law enforcement launched a search and the 45-year-old was found dead in his Mercedes in Piscataway, roughly 50 miles from the crime scene. The gun that had been used to kill Semanchik and Webb was beside him in the vehicle. The case could be traced back to Semanchik breaking up with Santos in September of 2024 after they dated for about 3 months. The trooper began stalking and harassing her in the aftermath. Even after she'd blocked him multiple times, he called her from restricted numbers, showed up to her work, tampered with her vehicle, and put recording devices in her home. Semanchik was particularly concerned that as a member of law enforcement, Santos was armed. She reportedly tried to notify multiple agencies, but according to her mother, Nobody called her back. The Franklin Township Police Department had taken her call but didn't follow up or notify state police. Santos, who'd previously worked as a supervisor on Governor Phil Murphy's protection detail, continued his campaign of terror. Semanchik, a beloved veterinarian at Long Valley Animal Hospital, consequently installed cameras in her car. After she left her veterinary office on the afternoon of August the 1st, rear cameras captured Santos trailing her in his white Mercedes. Shortly after she arrived home, Santos emerged from the woods near her driveway. Another half an hour later, Webb arrived at the address. They were both then gunned down in cold blood. She was failed by every single law enforcement agency that she went to for help. Her mother told the media. Updates on the matter indicated that Semanchik and Webb's families would be filing a lawsuit against both Franklin Township PD and the state police. The authorities said that they were investigating the accused failings of the aforementioned agencies. Today's topic was requested by Sarah Thalable. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Megan Hiatt. On November the 13th of 2015, Megan Hiatt was packing her things and preparing to leave her home in Jacksonville, Florida, after she'd ended the abusive relationship she'd had with 28-year-old Gawain Rashan Wilson. Megan's father, 49-year-old Travis, waited outside to provide support. Gawain and Megan had twin daughters, Hayden Rose and Caden Reese, and they were discussing co-parenting plans while they were sitting on the couch. During the course of the conversation, Gawain was overtaken by rage and started shaking. The Navy mechanic reportedly asked Megan, "Are you sure we're over?" To which she replied affirmatively. In the moments that followed, Gawain threw Caden on the couch and retrieved an AR-15 rifle from the closet. He told Megan, "I am going to murder your dad, and you're going to watch. I'll show you what's over." Megan screamed and her father came rushing through the door. Gawain opened fire. As bullets rained down on him, Travis kept trying to get up and protect his daughter, but the gunshots ultimately rendered him unresponsive. In subsequent accounts, it would be revealed that Travis was trying to take every bullet Gawain had so that there wouldn't be any left for his daughter and granddaughters. His heroic stand wouldn't prevent the tragedy that followed. Gawain turned the rifle towards Megan as she was holding Hayden and Caden in her arms and struggling to shield them. He then pulled the trigger. First responders discovered a scene of carnage. Travis and the twins were dead, as was Gawain, who was found with a gunshot wound to the head. Megan was clinging to life after she was shot 7 times. Her kidneys and lungs were the only organs that weren't hit by bullets. Her left leg and knee were shattered, and she'd lost an eye. The woman was taken to the hospital in critical condition but ultimately survived. In early 2025, Megan spoke to the media and gave an update on her life since the harrowing attack. After dozens of surgeries and years of struggling to regain her mobility, she was able to move around without a walker or a wheelchair. She'd remarried in 2021 and was open to becoming a mother again. The woman said that she was ready to move on and that she regularly found strength and hope in her faith. Megan added, "Everyone needs to find hope in something, and my hope is that I will one day get to hug my daughters again, to see my father again." Number 1. Regina Barnett. On June the 15th of 2023, deputies in Marion County, Tennessee responded to reports of shots fired at an address in Sakatchee. They found the house engulfed in flames and the fire crews from multiple communities were called to extinguish the blaze. Further investigation revealed that a massacre had taken place at the property. It was rooted in the breakdown of a marriage between 48-year-old heavy machinery worker Gary Barnett and his partner Regina. About a month prior, 53-year-old Regina filed a restraining order against her estranged husband, and a judge approved a no-contact order. Court documents revealed that the woman had grave concerns about Gary, writing, "My soon-to-be ex-husband threatened to shoot me and he verbally abuses me every day. He also threatened to shoot my dog. He also has anywhere from 50 to 60 guns in his room. I am afraid he will get drunk and shoot me." Months before that, Gary had posted a photo to his Facebook wearing overalls and a hockey mask, similar to that of Jason Voorhees from the Friday the 13th horror film franchise. Voorhees was a rampage killer who terrorized people and stabbed them with a machete. In hindsight, the post would be interpreted as an ominous glimpse into Gary's decaying state of mind. On June the 11th, he posted a quote by Marvin Heemeyer, who was an automobile repair shop owner from Granby, Colorado. He might have felt wronged by the town, and in 2004, he fortified a bulldozer and destroyed several buildings. Law enforcement closed in on him and ultimately found him dead. The quote posted by Gary read, "I was always willing to be reasonable until I had to be unreasonable. Sometimes reasonable men must do unreasonable things." 4 days later, Gary went to his estranged partner's rural home. At the time, Regina was visited by her daughter, Brittany Perez, and her 3 children. Armed with unspecified weaponry, Gary unleashed hell on all of those present at the property. 6 bodies were recovered from the smoking home. Among them was Regina, Brittany, and the latter's 3 children, the names and ages of whom weren't revealed. Gary's body was also found at the scene. An unidentified adult survived and was flown to get treatment for their gunshot injuries. Marion County Sheriff Bo Burnett told a media outlet, "This is one of the worst things I've seen. You hear about these things, but this is one of the worst I've been involved in all my career as a law enforcement officer." Thanks for watching. Assuming your life was suddenly randomized, would you rather get a new partner or a new job? Let us know in the comments section below.